Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When we think about parenting, most of us imagine a child who has already been born. We think about diapers, education, discipline, school, and teaching manners. But one of the most beautiful reminders from this discussion is that tarbiyah does not begin after birth. It begins long before a child opens their eyes to this world. The first environment a child experiences is not a home. It is the heart of the mother. Before a child hears our words, they live in our emotional environment. Before they learn from our actions, they are surrounded by our thoughts, our feelings, and the atmosphere we create during pregnancy. This is why pregnancy is not just a physical journey, it is also a spiritual journey. The lecture reminds mothers that one of the greatest gifts they can give their unborn child is a peaceful heart. That does not mean life becomes perfect. It does not mean there will be no difficulties. It means learning to remain pleased with Allah even when life does not go according to our plans. Many mothers experience fear during pregnancy. Some worry about finances. Some wonder how they will manage another child. Some worry about their health. Others begin thinking about everything they had planned before the pregnancy. Perhaps they wanted to continue studying. Perhaps they wanted to build a career. Perhaps they felt they were not ready. These emotions are real. But the lecture reminds us not to allow these worries to become the atmosphere in which we live every day. Instead, we should train our hearts to return to gratitude. One of the greatest dangers mentioned in the lecture is constant complaining. Sometimes complaining becomes a habit. We complain about our circumstances. We complain about our responsibilities. We complain about what we do not have. Gradually, our hearts begin focusing only on what is missing, instead of appreciating what Allah has already given us. The speaker explains that Shaitan always wants our attention fixed on what we don't have. He wants us to compare. He wants us to ask, why not me? Why now? Why is my life different? But a believer learns to ask a different question. What wisdom has Allah placed in this situation? That single question changes everything. Instead of feeling trapped, we begin looking for blessings. Instead of feeling burdened, we begin searching for purpose. One powerful reminder from the lecture is directed toward mothers who become upset because life unfolded differently than they expected. Some may have planned to have children years later. Others may have hoped for a different family situation. Some become anxious because they already have several children and wonder how they will manage another. But Allah's timing is always greater than our planning. The lecture encourages mothers to trust that every child arrives with wisdom, even if we cannot immediately understand it. Sometimes Allah gives us blessings before we feel prepared, but He never gives without wisdom. This is why the speaker repeatedly emphasizes contentment, not pretending that difficulties don't exist, but choosing to remain pleased with Allah despite those difficulties. There is a difference between facing hardship and living in constant dissatisfaction. A grateful heart experiences hardship differently. The lecture also reminds mothers that gratitude is more than words. Many people say Alhamdulillah with their tongues, while their hearts remain filled with frustration. Real gratitude reaches the heart. It changes how we see life. It changes how we respond to unexpected situations. It changes the emotional environment surrounding our families. Another beautiful point discussed is that pregnancy should become a time of spiritual connection. Instead of allowing the mind to become consumed with worry, fill your days with remembrance of Allah. Read with understanding. Reflect. Slow down. Allow your heart to become peaceful. The lecture especially encourages mothers to recite verses thoughtfully rather than mechanically. Do not simply rush through them. Understand them, feel them, allow their meanings to settle inside your heart. Because when faith enters the mother's heart, it transforms the atmosphere surrounding the child. The speaker also reminds mothers that happiness is a choice we renew every day. People often believe happiness depends on perfect circumstances, but life is rarely perfect. There will always be responsibilities. There will always be challenges. There will always be moments of uncertainty. If we wait for every difficulty to disappear before becoming grateful, we may spend our entire lives waiting. Instead, Islam teaches us to find peace within Allah's decree. Contentment does not remove hardship. It changes our relationship with hardship. The lecture gives another important reminder. Many people spend so much time regretting the past or worrying about the future that they stop appreciating the present. Regret becomes a habit. What if I had waited? What if things were different? What if my plans had worked out? These thoughts slowly steal the joy from today. But children deserve parents who are emotionally present, not parents constantly trapped inside yesterday or tomorrow. One of the most touching parts of the lecture is the reminder that every child is a treasure from Allah. Sometimes we fail to recognize the value of what has been placed in our hands because we are too busy comparing our lives with someone else's. Imagine someone giving you a priceless treasure. Would you spend your time complaining about how it arrived, or would you cherish it? The speaker encourages mothers to see every child as a gift, whose blessings may only become visible years later. There are countless forms of goodness that Allah places inside a child's existence, goodness that parents cannot yet see. That is why trust is so important. Trust that Allah knows what we do not know. Trust that His wisdom is greater than our planning. Trust that every stage of life carries hidden mercy. The lecture also addresses a subject that has become increasingly common in recent years: postpartum depression. The speaker acknowledges that after childbirth, a woman's body naturally experiences physical changes. Pregnancy and delivery are demanding experiences. Feeling tired or overwhelmed at times is understandable. However, the lecture expresses concern that modern society sometimes encourages mothers to define themselves primarily through these struggles. The speaker shares her own experience and reflects that, while physical changes certainly exist, she believes many mothers benefit from approaching this stage with hope, gratitude, and trust in Allah, rather than assuming they are destined to remain overwhelmed. Her advice is to focus on strength instead of constantly expecting weakness. To remember that motherhood is not only a challenge, it is also a source of immense blessing. She explains that children often bring unexpected barakah into a person's life. Many mothers discover new strength they never knew they possessed. Many find themselves becoming more productive, more focused, and more resilient after having children. Allah places barakah where He wills. Sometimes, a child becomes the very reason a person's life becomes richer, not only emotionally, but spiritually as well. The lecture ends this discussion with a message every mother needs to hear. Your child does not need a perfect mother. Your child needs a mother whose heart is connected to Allah, a mother who chooses gratitude over constant complaint, hope over despair, contentment over resentment, trust over fear. When a mother's heart becomes peaceful, that peace naturally spreads throughout the home. Children feel it, families benefit from it, and the home becomes a place filled with mercy rather than anxiety. May Allah grant every mother a heart filled with contentment, strengthen every family through patience and gratitude, and bless every child with parents whose trust in Allah becomes the foundation of their tarbiyah. Ameen.